welcome back to the Globalists, the very last episode of 2022. And as we planned, we have you as the guest, and we'll be talking about dozen guests we had so far. So happy to have you back.
Thank you. A dozen guests, 12 guests already? Oh my God.
So I understand that you've also been very active in the global stage as well. So can you share with us what you've been up to?
I've been away for almost a month in Tokyo and Washington, D.C. I've been to a couple of international forums, talked about philosophy and science and geopolitics. So we've done a lot of that. During December also, I have been appointed Korea's ambassador for cultural cooperation.
Congratulations on that.
A huge responsibility, but I'm looking forward to it.
Let's turn the clock back to when we prepared the show.
여기는 그냥 짧게 넘어갈 수 있고 그 프로그램 굉장히 구체하게 펠러린. Okay.
Oh, I'm a journalist.
Yeah,
me too.
So you and I talked deeply about each guest, but in particular, you have a thorough preparation before the sit-downs. So do you have a significant process or any routines you go through?
Well, it's basic. You prepare, you study, you read about your guest and about the subject you're going to talk about. So that is sort of basic. And then I also like to, because we're in a situation where there's so much video and so much information out there in the world about, especially the guests that we have on our show who are leaders in their own right. So I try to see as much as I can about how they talk. When they feel most comfortable and how to get them into a conversation, because that's very important. And then I sit back and say, okay, what do our viewers really want to know about this guest? And why is this guest on a show called The Globalist? And so that is what I try to focus on.
Maybe that's where you get the very keen questions. You show a lot of compassion and empathy to our guests, but it seems like you're not that afraid of asking a few hard questions to them.
If I am someone that wants to go to Seoul, if I'm someone from Tokyo and wants to go to Seoul and is looking to go to, let's say, a palace in Korea, the digitalization of your service, how would that make my experience from going from Tokyo to a palace in Seoul different? So tell us about the future of automobiles. What can we expect? I mean, we're already looking at self-driving cars. When would we expect that? What is next?
That is very easy question, and at the same time, very difficult question. Right?
But
Yeah.
don't they already have that? I mean, I can't believe that an agent for a superstar like group like Blackpink wouldn't have already that. Or
true.
is that because they have you?
Maybe. True.
Korea, we just went through our own horrific incident in Itaewon. In disaster reporting, I mean, what makes good journalism in disaster reporting?
That's such a good question.
Well, I have a vague idea of how the conversation is going to go. But I'm not restricted by anything in terms of what I have planned ahead of time. When a guest says something really interesting, I really do need to listen and then ask questions, because I'm sitting here on behalf of all our viewers. And so if the viewers would find something interesting and want to know about what this person has said, then it is my responsibility to ask. And so that's just what I do.
During last 60 years, if you look back, Korea has achieved a lot of economic growth. and our national power has grown to be a leading member of leading countries on this globe.
And compared to when you first started in the US, do you find it an advantage being a Korean entrepreneur?
Absolutely, yes. I can sing a song about it, right? I can tell. I'm the witness and I'm the testimonial that I can provide a testimonial that I have seen a major change of perception around Korea, Korean and also Korea culture, Korean products and brands. People generally they are curious about Korea and Korean, and I think that is very positive. The change.
I'm speaking as a former Minister of Culture in a country that is so proud of its, heritage and culture. But I think, Korea has outsmarted France in terms of soft power recently, in the recent years, thanks to this, Hallyu policy. Now the K contents are really recognized all over the world, and people want to watch TV series, want to listen to K-pop, want to eat Korean food. I think this has created sort of mindset worldwide, but also in France, where people are very interested in everything coming from Korea.
The popularity of it, it's really difficult to explain, except for the fact that the world right now is experiencing a wave of Hallyu, and I'm part of that.
It seems like the perception of Korea on the global note has changed a lot. Do you feel that as well?
Definitely. I think it is one of the major reasons that we have a show called The Globalist. Globalists, I think there are more than one. I think really Korea's standing in the world has risen significantly, and it's because not only K-pop, but overall Korea's economic standing, Korea's voice in the world, it is so much different from just a few years ago, let alone a decade ago. I remember Seju Chung of Noom talking about the fact that when he was in the United States and he would go to an American fund manager, he would introduce himself in English and say, "Hello, my name is Seju and I am from Korea," and remembers that increasingly these US fund managers would turn to him and say, "안녕하세요." And he said it shocked him that they would know how to say hello in Korean. And I think it is because so many people now are more interested in Korea than ever before. And so they want to know more. And that's different.
Maybe that's the reason for having more viewers for our program.
I think we should have a lot more viewers for our program because I think the globalists that we highlight in every episode really personify why Korea is such a dynamic country in the global stage.
인사드리겠습니다. 둘, 셋, 팍! 자, 안녕하세요. 방탄소년단입니다.
One day, that one morning, I woke up and I heard on the BBC that the BTS broke the 24-hour download record that was set by Taylor Swift. And I sat up in bed and I said, this is it, this is the band. And I had heard of BTS, I'm sure I had listened to BTS, but I went into class that day and I said, okay, now this is it, get ready.
Dude, 45 million in 24 hours. Taylor Swift's record was like 43 and a half. How many have never heard of this band? Never heard of them. You want to know who these guys are.
BTS is the band, and you're going to know them. Your parents will know them. Your grandparents will know them. It's going to be the biggest pop group probably in the world.
But at that lecture, you said that when you asked your students how many knew about BTS, only 5 raised their hand.
Yeah, 5 or 6 or 7 or something, and nobody did. But you know, a year later, I asked the same question, and about 2/3 of the class raised their hand. And that's how quickly BTS swept through.
When we pull up, you know it's a shutdown. 간판 내리고 문잠가 shutdown.
Our data science mechanisms, such as we cluster similar artists together. So what we really tried to build at Chartmetric was not just giving you the data about your artist, actually. Since this is more like Bloomberg kind of tool, you can see your artist data, but you can compare Blackpink data next to BTS data side by side. Yes, you, as an agent of Blackpink, you have Blackpink data, but do you have BTS data? Do you have some other K-pop girl groups and pop stars?
And not only K-pop.
Not only K-pop, exactly. That's a great point. Blackpink, compare Blackpink next to Taylor, next to Rihanna. And you may realize, or that the data may reveal something interesting to you. Shockingly interesting.
I think the popularity of K-pop is really important to Korea. And I think it's one because, the K-pop audience is global. I mean, it's everywhere you look in almost all countries of the world, and it's among the younger generation. And I think that younger generation is going to grow up to shape our future, the world's future. And if you have a generation that loves your culture, you have a fan base of future global leaders who also are going to love your culture. So I think that's very important. So I think that's one. Second, I think, many of our guests have talked about the fact that K-pop has given them the foundation to really pursue things that they want to do. And it has allowed a lot of Koreans around the world to be very successful. And I think that both of these are really important aspects of K-pop that we in Korea sometimes don't understand.
Then maybe we'll have related guests soon.
I think so. I think we'll have an endless amount of guests that we could get on the show.
And I was studying electrical engineering, but a hardship happened in my life that my father passed away, and that really changed the way I was thinking about the world and my life. In other words, that I paid attention, what should I do? Why am I here in this planet? I know it sounds a little like strange, but I became far more philosophical about my life, and that reset the priority, and it became very clear to me that I need to pursue my life for entrepreneurship, and also need to go to global in healthcare.
You called yourself a disruptor.
Right.
What did you disrupt?
In travel industry, most of the leading companies are more than 20 years old. In terms of any other industries, you have seen the global innovating companies like Google, Amazon, Netflix, and so on. So I believe that we need to make kind of the disruptive company, then it's possible to be a global #1 platform.
As you were reaching 40, you gave all of that up and started a startup.
Yes, I did.
Why? What possibly could have motivated you to do that?
More fundamental reason for me is I wanted to live a life like or work as if I'm playing.
So you wanted to be a
so
player, not an
player.
observer.
Exactly.
Also, you've had a chance to meet many CEOs, BBQ, Chartmetrics, 야놀자, and Noom. So do they have anything in common?
It's the classic rags to riches story. None of them have come with, they've not had a foundation. They've not come from rich families. Most of them, all of them, have started with almost nothing, but they built something out of that nothing. It is really a tale of Korea's corporate society as a whole. The Samsung and the Hyundais of the world, that's how they started. And that's how they became the global superpowers that they are today. And so I see that in all of the little, they're not little anymore, but all of the entrepreneurs that we met on our show.
Maybe having young entrepreneurs is our next homework as well.
I think it is also. I think it is exciting to see how Korean entrepreneurs are really innovating every field that they enter. And I think that's something that, fund managers and people outside of Korea are also realizing, that the creativeness and the innovativeness of Korean entrepreneurs is making a big stir outside of Korea.
I think that most people around the world have no idea how much ajumas have done for Korea in order for it to become the miracle on the Han. The unsung heroes, I think, of Korea are the women. In all of my interviews, I had interviewed so many men, they always talked about their mothers in this very glowing kind of way. Actually, the sons recognized the sacrifices their mothers have made, and that moved me. So when I drafted Pachinko, in the final version, it became the story of the mother of two sons.
Did you feel a gender difference in the way that you were accepted? I mean, were their concerns true?
Certainly, as a woman, you're treated differently here. But I felt that also it was kind of unusual. It wasn't expected. Just as at that time, it wasn't expected at the American Embassy by our Korean counterparts that we would have Asian Americans, or let's just say non-white Americans. There was a stereotype. And to the extent that it was in the 80s, we began to have other kinds of diplomats here. I think overall it was really good for our ability to, say, reach deeper into the society and have more diverse contacts and understanding and perspectives that we brought back to Washington, but also share those perspectives with our Korean, because it's a two-way, conversation that you try to have as diplomats. So,
True.
Yeah.
For women in particular, I think because this kind of climbing up a ladder is relatively new for women, it is a difficult process. Is that one of the things that you felt?
I think the French society has really factored in the fact that gender equality, equal pay, the fact that women must have the same chances as men, it's now a given. It's something that's natural. But that didn't prevent me from having this career, and I benefited from this, gender equality sort of mindset that people have. So I'm very thankful also to the French system to make it possible for women, also coming from modest backgrounds, to make it to the top. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible.
I'm a woman, and so I find that subject really interesting. And I find it interesting because whoever you talk to, whether they are, whichever country they come from, whether they're successful or not, whether they're in arts or in politics, I find that there is a sisterhood, a common set of experiences that women all over the world, in almost any generation, have experienced. And we are eager to share it because we know that it is not us, but even the younger generation, they will also go through the same experience. And in a way, you feel the need to let them know that they are not alone, that this is an experience that everyone, well, most everyone goes through. And I think that feeling that you are not alone in this is something that we want to share. And I find that with almost any woman that I meet.
Sharing their opinions and sharing their experience from our program, it is meaningful.
I definitely think so.
So here's a tough one for you. Out of all the guests we had so far, who made the greatest impression on your mind?
Oh, that's hard. It's like, who's your favorite child, you know? I mean, they were all wonderful guests, but I guess you remember your first. And so I guess Lee Min-jin, you know, the author of Pachinko and Free Food for Millionaires, it really stays in my mind, not only because she was our first guest, but what she did, the story, you know, writing about stories about Korea and Koreans, is in a way what our show is about. It is about telling the world about Koreans, about Korea. And I think what she has been doing, and she's done it so well, is in a way why we are doing the show. So I think in many ways, I remember her the most.
Finally, we head into a brand new year, ready to have more Globalists on the show. So as the host of the Globalists, how do you want to define the Globalists? And is there anyone in particular you want to meet?
Well, in 2023, I'm hoping to get BTS.
Oh, right.
Yes. So any army there, you know, we want BTS on the show. Because I think BTS, it really has credit for putting Korea on the global map. And I think it would really benefit the world and our viewers to really be able to understand BTS as individuals or as the people that they are, in order to understand why BTS has made such an effect. Second, about what I would like for the Globalists in 2023. I would really like to highlight Koreans and non-Koreans who have allowed Korea not just to be important, but to change the world, to make an impression on the world, to make it better. And that means whether it is to end poverty, to, you know, make the world a kinder, friendlier place, whether it is to combat climate change, which is actually a plug for the first guest that we're going to have on 2023. Those kind of people, I think, also would allow the world to understand that Korea will make a difference. And through the Globalists. "2023 is going to be an exciting year for Korea and for the Globalists. And we are really looking forward to having exciting guests on the Globalists as well. So until then, we'll be back next week with another Globalist who is putting Korea on the map. Sohn Jie-ae out. Happy New Year.